So I've made this rubric of what I consider to be most important to me in what I like in a deck of cards. Obviously this is pretty subjective, but I tried to be as nuanced as possible to allow for all different kinds of cards. I mostly have an artistic leaning, kind of care more about how the cards look than how they feel, but I still do care about the material they're made of. That is part of the rubric. So let's just get right into it. First thing I look for is the box. Now this deck of cards actually did not come with a box. It came in plastic wrap. There is a way you can get like plastic boxes that you can put cards in. Also, these are not standard poker sized cards, so this box wouldn't work for other types of cards. If it doesn't come with a box, it gets 0 points. The next step up would just be a plain paper box. Now this has a sticker on it. Now it came with a sticker, but if it was just like this plain cardboard box, then that would be just 1 point. Just any kind of plain box. If it was just like a solid color, then that would also just be 1 point. Now I don't have an example of this, but if the box had like a window to see through and see the cards inside, that's an extra half point. Now I don't have one of those myself, but I've seen them on sites where you make your own custom playing cards. They offer this box option where you can choose to have a window in it. The next step up would be to have a printed box. Basically any box that's not just a plain solid color or anything. You know, it just has any kind of printed design on it. That would be a point. Also, it can be a pattern or a picture. Doesn't really matter to me. There is a small caveat here with paper boxes, is that if it's difficult to take the cards in and take them out, then you're gonna lose half a point. Basically, a lot of well-made boxes have this extra flap right here that kind of allows the cards to be pulled out more easily. And I'm not saying you have to have that flap, but if not having it means it's harder to get the cards out, I can't like grip them, I have to like pull them out. That's just gonna be half a point loss. And the reason I do that is because if you try to pull them out yourself, you could damage the box when doing that, as I've done before. Only once before. After that I learned my lesson. Now the next type of case I talk about is plastic cases. And there are different kinds of plastic cases. Not all plastic cases are equal. But basically if it's a clear plastic box, I do give it the benefit of 2 points because being in plastic, it will protect the cards more from like water damage and such. So I do give it that benefit. A lot of plastic boxes come from places where you make your own customized cards, but other places also do plastic cases kind of to be cheap, because probably printing a paper box is more expensive than just giving out a clear plastic box. But it is possible that they can put a sticker or something on it, like this. You can give it some kind of front to look at, even though it's a plastic case. Now the caveat with plastic cases is whether or not it holds together well. Now this one, as I was already talking about, this one you can't even open up. It's got a little latch on it, which is nice. I like that. It's a pretty quality plastic case. However, other decks like this one, as you can see, the line right around here is where the case holds on, and if you don't hold it correctly, you know, it could just flop open. So that's going to lose a half a point with me if the case does not hold well together. Now it doesn't have to have a latch. It could just be a well fit together case, like there's a line right here for this one, and I can hold it and it's not going to fall over or open up. Same with this one. This one's actually pretty thick for plastic, like plastic goes all the way across here, and this is not going to fall open, hopefully. So that's pretty cool. So there are good plastic cases like that. Now I also don't have an example of this, but if it comes in a tin case, that's going to be 1.5 points. The reason for that is because it has the benefit of protecting the cards better than a paper box, but I have yet to see a tin case that actually is standard size. Pretty much every tin case I see is going to be odd shaped, just a bit from what normal playing cards are going to be. Now I do like them when they have just like a unique design on them. That's going to automatically give them an extra point, which is a step up from that 1.5 that a plain tin case would have. if they sold cards like that. Now this applies to all decks, but if they have a name on the box, this PlayStation would be enough. Like Ignite here is the name of this deck. It's just helpful to have a name on the box to help me identify the deck. You know, what do I call it? How do I reference this deck of cards? If there's reflective foil, or like you got this kind of color scheme going on this deck, that's also like just half a point extra, just because it's cool. If the case is not standard size, like if you're gonna put a bunch of cards together and it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb, then that's half a point off. And it's weird that this box itself is even like that, because the cards themselves are normal shape. They're not like square cards or anything, but the box is square for some reason. I also will say some decks come with these like sleeves that you can pull out. I don't really care for sleeves. I think it's just kind of like an extra step and something else to keep track of that could get lost easily, but I'm not going to take away or give any points for having a sleeve on your deck. Now for the material of the cards, I've got these examples here. So the first type is just smooth paper, basically. You can pull out these cards and you can see that it's just smooth paper. It's flat. There's nothing special about it. This is basically the cheapest kind of card you can get, and so it gets 1 point. The next type is this 100% plastic type. Basically, it's being 100% plastic. It's waterproof, but it's also the most slippery. It's hardest to hold. I think it does take a little more concentration to make sure that you don't drop these cards. They're also very flexible. That's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but you can bend them around a lot. You don't like lose their shape or anything. So yeah, they're just an odd kind of card. They have the benefit of being waterproof, but not having a good grip, I'd say that gives them only 2 points. Now the next type is kind of an odd one. I just refer to it as linen. Basically, these are the type of cards that are made at custom card shops. This is like the best material that they can offer. And what it is, you can even see, is that it's got kind of a texture to it. Let's see, maybe in the reflection of the light, you can see there are tiny little lines. And it is kind of like, it's got like some kind of material woven through it, linen, I guess. And it does give the card a little bit of texture, more so than the paper. And so it does have just a very slightly better grip. And so I give it the extra points of going up to 3 for that. And then lastly, the best of best is, of course, the US Playing Card Company Air Cushion Finish, which does give it much better grip, and you can probably see this more easily. It's a lot easier to see the dots and like the diamond there. You can just see that there is some texture to it, so you can basically just helps to hold the cards and for shuffling and doing card tricks, stuff like that, or anything similar to it. Now the US Playing Card Company's Air Cushion Finish, that is patented by them. And there are other companies that try to emulate it. And if it gets close enough, then I'll give them the 4 points that it's worth. Something else to consider for all these material cards is if the cards themselves contain some extra flair, like reflective foil, or they glow in the dark, or some other visual effect, that will give it an extra half point. For example, these tragic royalty playing cards say that they glow under blacklight. Of course, I don't have a blacklight handy to show that, but that is an extra thing on the cards that just gives you half a point. Also, if a deck of cards is far from standard size, and I mean like regular poker size, I will take points off. For example, these Night Sky cards, they are the full size of the box, which, just to put in perspective, it makes them a little harder to hold a bunch of them. Just the size of them just kind of makes it sometimes awkward to hold. But again, that only takes off half a point. I will also take off half a point specifically for these types of cheap feeling cards. These are odd kind of cards because not only are they smooth paper, but they're very flexible and feel kind of flimsy. Like, I feel like I could probably tear this in half pretty easily. If it feels very, very thin, which is not often, but these cards specifically, like, I could just bend this out of shape so easily it'd be awful. I just don't even want to use these for playing because it just seems like it'd be so easy to ruin them. In that case, I'm just going to take off half a point. Alright, now we get into the backs of the cards themselves. Now the very lowest score you can get is a solid color with text only or just has a very poor pattern. Basically, what I mean by a poor pattern is that it tries to be a repeating pattern, but it clearly has an orientation. My example would be these cards right here. How it kind of looks like it's just a random scramble of images, but if you put them side to side, you can see that it doesn't repeat. You can see that there is like an upside and a downside. If you look at the bottom left here, how it repeats like that, it doesn't match upside down. So that's what I mean by a poor pattern. We get 1 point for that. And if it's just text only, even stylized text like this, that's also 1 point. The next step up, now this I admit is a bit of a biased call on my part, is just what I call the stock bicycle design. Basically, this pattern has been used on a lot of playing cards, and I am not impressed by it anymore. It does have advantages that I reference later, in that right side up and upside down is the same card. You're not going to be looking at the back of someone's hand and thinking, they got their cards upside down. So that's nice. I just like that from an artistic perspective. It also has images. It's not just a repeating pattern. Like, that's clearly a angel on a bicycle, and there's some, like, I don't know, other ones in the corners here. It's not just geometric shapes repeating, but we'll get into that. And that is worth 2 points. So the next step up beyond the bicycle deck is to have a unique pattern. Now this is just like lines, basically. These aren't like pictures of anything in particular. Like, I can't identify this as what it is. But it is a repeating pattern where it's the same right side up or upside down, which I refer to that as having no orientation. And that's worth 2.5 points. Now the next step up is to have a unique picture. Now this, if the other person's holding their cards upside down, you'll notice just if they have a single card upside down. But so that's the downside of having a picture, but it is nice to have something that's recognizable on the back. I like that. And it's not just some geometric shapes. It stands out more by having a identifiable picture on it. So that is worth 3 points. And now the best type of back to have, in my opinion, is something that is a custom design pattern, integrates pictures into a pattern. The pattern means it has no orientation. So if it's upside down or right side up, you're not going to tell. But looking at the cards themselves, they don't have any orientation per se, but the backs don't either. So that's nice that no one looking at the back of their hand is going to know. And the picture part comes in the fact that there are like dragons in the corner. Like, those are things I can identify as something other than just, geometric shapes. So that is the high standard that I look for on backs. Now, something I don't have, but I do mark down points for, is if the deck of cards, for one reason or another, does not have uniform backs. So my example here is that this deck, called the Spectrum deck, it basically has each back is a different color of the rainbow, just very slightly different from the next. And the backs are obviously not the same as one another. That's going to make it hard to play card games because you're going to know what kind of card that is based on the back. So I just take off 1 point for that. Now we get into what is, I guess I would argue, the most important part of the cards, is the front of them. Now, another example I don't have, if the cards don't have suits and they're just numbers, there are like little kid game cards that are sold like this. Those are only worth 1 point to me. Now we have what I call the standard bicycle suits and pip arrangement. Obviously the standard suits are like the spade, heart, club, diamond. But what I really mean by the pip arrangement is that, like, you got the 6 and the 3 are lined up just like that. The 9 is lined up like that. whatever suit it is, whatever symbols they use, that is the arrangement that they put them in on the numbered cards. Now that's not bad, I'm just saying that's kind of like a baseline for where we build on. Also, this is where the type of cards kind of split for me. One type is to have the regular pip arrangement, the way a bicycle deck of cards does. Another type is to just simply replace all the pips with just pictures, and we will get into that after we go through the standard bicycle suit and pip option. Now the next step up is to just have custom colors, and that just simply means like basically anything but the red and black on white background. Even if it's just simple as changing colors, that is an extra point for me. Another bonus that the front of the cards can have is that they have customized royal cards. The king, queen, jack, sometimes ace, not always. The ace is not a determining factor of whether or not it is custom royal cards, but if they are customized, this is an extra 1.2, and the reason for the extra decimal points is I kind of had to give some extra weight to things so that the maximum points possible is even 20. But in this case, like, the other cards are just normal bicycle cards, but the royal cards are customized. Now that doesn't mean the other cards can't be customized. In fact, that's my next example. If you have custom pip cards, and that is if the cards have custom pips, like basically anything where the shape is reasonably different from a standard deck of cards. So like, that's a diamond, but it's clearly not just a simple diamond anymore. Having custom pip cards gives you an extra 1.3. Now the highest points you can get with the standard pip layout is if you have, say, extra images on your pip cards as well. Like, they're not just displaying the suits, but they are also have some extra images in there that kind of just spice things up. And I think the best example of this is the Pipmen cards, where it's not exactly the standard pip layout, but they've got extra images kind of in the background, which adds something to it. And this is only an extra 1 point, but that's just because very often they're also doing the custom royal cards and also custom pip design. So the extra point is just basically a bonus. Now we get into the point where we kind of split earlier, where instead of having normal pip arrangements, you've got pictures on your card. So this does not show like 9 spades anywhere on the card, it's just a picture. It has the suit only in the corners. That is how I kind of differentiate between having pips and having pictures, is if you can only tell the rank of the card by looking at the corner. Basically, there's no pips shown on the picture here. Now this is what I consider the lowest form of a picture card. That being, there is really only 6 different pictures in here. Each suit pretty much has its own picture, and then the 8s. Part of their thing is that they have the 8s are different for playing crazy 8s, but basically every card of that suit otherwise is the same picture. And so the total pictures on here only goes up to 6 unique pictures on these cards. Well, actually, the Armored Flood pictures are all different. Okay, so either way, it may be more than 6 technically, but it is definitely less than 13, which would be a unique picture for each number, but it's shared on every suit. And I have an example of that right here. So every 2 has the same picture, as you can see here, but for each suit, they've got their own picture. So each number just has its own unique picture, which brings the total to at least 13 unique pictures. So that elevates it an extra 1 point, so you get up to 2 points for that. Beyond that, you need to have at least 26 unique pictures, which means that there are, say, here are these office cards, for example. Every ace is one of 2 pictures. So there are basically 2 sets of pictures, so 26 pictures at least. I mean, you can count the jokers, but there are at least 26 pictures to have unique. So even though they are like different quotes on these, I'm calling it as the picture itself is the same. There's 2 sets of 13 pictures here that are just spread out between the 4 suits. So that gives you a total of at least 26. And that's an extra 1.2 on top of the 1 of having picture cards and the 1 of having at least 13. You also have an extra 1.2 for having 26 pictures. You would also get an extra 1.3 if you had 52 unique pictures. So if we were to look at, say, the 10s, you're not going to find the same 10 image twice. Basically, there are no repeat pictures. As you can see, these are all different unique poses. And that goes for every other card in here. None of these poses are copied or redone on another card, which gives us at least 52 unique pictures. Now the only way to get better than that for the picture cards is if card suits are represented in the pictures themselves, not just the corners. This is sadly something I do not have an example of. It is sort of an unobtained ideal card in my mind, but if the picture itself had something that represented diamonds, if this person has like a diamond on their shirt or something, that at least represents the suit in the picture itself. What would be an extra point above that is if they represented the number in some way. If we were talking about twos, if the person had like 2 fingers held up or something. Oh, actually, this one kind of represents diamonds, although that's not something that's uniform among all the cards. Like, there's no club represented here. It would need to apply to at least most of the cards for it to count as an extra point. But yeah, if the suits were represented on all the cards' pictures, not just in the corners, then that would be an extra point. And then if the value, I don't know how you'd represent a king, maybe put a crown on him, but if for numbers it'd be very easy, like there'd have to be something 10, like, I don't know, hold up 10 fingers. That's just an example, there could be other ways. If they were to do that, that would also be an extra point. Now there is a caveat to consider with picture cards in particular. On the pictures themselves, if some of them are landscape oriented, basically sideways, because most of the time you're going to be holding cards in just about any game like this. If any of these pictures are pretty obviously landscape oriented instead of portrait oriented, if any decent number of the cards are that way, I'm going to take a point away from the deck, because it's not as cool to look at sideways when you're holding your cards, even though some of the cards are portrait oriented. If any number of them are pretty obviously landscape oriented, that's going to lose a point on the deck. Now for some extra points to speak of when it comes to the cards in general, but I would put it under the front category, just to put it somewhere. If there are additional cards besides the standard 54 or 52 cards, like jokers don't count as extra cards, but if there are additional cards, stuff that's like magic cards. So these 2 cards, even they are part of this deck, but this card in fact is a double back. So you flip this card over, it's just black. Flip this card over, it's blank. These are just extra cards used for doing magic tricks. If these are included in a deck, they will get an extra half point, because they aren't really used for playing card games themselves. Also, advertisements would not count. There are some decks that come with ads for like, hey, check out our other decks, and it's printed on the card. That doesn't count as an extra card for this purpose. Something else I can show with this deck is if a deck doesn't come with 2 jokers, it's going to lose half a point. This deck, for example, only has 1 joker. There is not a second joker sent with this deck of cards. So this deck would lose its half point that it gained from having magic cards by not having a second joker card. Now here's another odd one that I came across, is that if the Jack, Queen, King, sometimes the Ace, sometimes not, share the exact same face or picture. In this case, these PlayStation cards, look at this. Jack, Queen, King, they all have the exact same picture. There's no way to tell except look at the corner. Carrot, you can see, oh, there's 10 circles. But only looking at the corner of these cards can you tell what the value is. Same goes with the Ace here. It's just a single symbol. Now something else to be shown with these cards, and I'm going to introduce another deck, the Space Invader cards. Now here's a problem that arises by having these unique images. A unique suit that can't be easily named with common knowledge is going to take off half a point per suit. Now, the PlayStation cards, I can easily call out 4 of X instead of like 4 of spades, 5 of triangle, 6 of square, 2 of circle. I can at least call that out for what it is. Space Invader cards, I have no idea what this thing is called. That requires special knowledge of cards or the universe, the game itself. So these are going to lose half a point for each suit, so a total of 2 points. I mean, maybe I can call this spaceship. That's up for debate. But all these alien cards, I don't know what each of them would be called. Maybe a squid, but then how do you differentiate between these 2? So there's definitely some iffiness in the card names on these. Some other notes to just put out there on the fronts of cards is that if some designs or colors may be hard to read the cards in a game setting, perhaps it's so stylized, maybe it's not clear what it is right away. If you have a problem reading the card itself, I'm not actually going to take away any points for that. That's just something to be aware of for the purpose of playing card games, especially card games where you have to read the cards quickly. Also, there are cards like these Pitmen cards which actually attempts to form an image when you put them all together. I do not give or take away any points for having that included in your deck. I just simply don't care because I'm not going to look at the cards in that way on a regular basis. Yeah, here's what all the cards would look like if they were all put together. So in the end, the most points that can be gained on a deck of cards is 20, which makes it easy to score out of 100. And that is my rubric that I have so far. It is open to suggestions. If you can think of any other particular points on a deck of playing cards that should be paid attention to, let me know and I'll consider it for my rubric.